Carla Salinas at the Fox 5 First Alert Update Desk. Las Vegas Metro Police has revised its immigration policy in response to the recent passing of the Laken Riley Act. They say they will still not enforce immigration violations, but they will share criminal intelligence regarding transnational organized crime and international terrorism. They had previously said when an undocumented person is charged with a violent felony, domestic violence, and DUI, their Detention Services Division would notify ICE at the time of booking and release. Now they're adding other crimes like burglary, theft, larceny, petite larceny, and assault of a law enforcement officer. They do emphasize that officers will not stop and question, detain, or place an immigrant hold on people for the sole reason of being undocumented. Now the Laken Riley Act, signed into law earlier this week by President Trump, requires the detention of undocumented immigrants charged with theft or burglary.